Hey guys, sitting down here. This is gonna be my chapter review to One Punch Man 94. It's called I See, and it was like 143 pages long. So this is gonna be a hopefully not too long a review. I'm hoping to keep it within 10 to 15 minutes. Well, I'm actually gonna go through it page by page because it was too long to actually write a review of. But I'm gonna try and focus more on the characters rather than the actual story, because the story of the chapter is very simple in terms of what actually happened, which is Child Emperor and his squad of S-Class and lower heroes arrive at the entrance to the Monster Association. However, the heroes are all kind of quickly surrounded by monsters and are forced to duke it out in order to survive. That was the premise of the entire chapter. But let's actually go through what I found impressive and like the characters and stuff we saw. So one of the first things that actually happens is that Child Emperor notices that King isn't there, and he's told by Gyaspa that King said he was going to move into position early, so don't worry about him, just make sure that everyone infiltrates at the same time. And obviously Child Emperor takes this as a bit of a slight because he believes that King doesn't trust him because he's still a child. In reality, King's just wanting to go and kind of take his own squadron of Bang, Bomb, Genos, Fubuki, and obviously Saitama, but Saitama's a bit ahead of things. And this, like, I think we see Needle Star and Green saying that it doesn't matter if King's gone ahead by himself, he'll do a great job even if he's by his onesies. So this is really where the heroes start to get kind of surrounded by just a shit ton of monsters, and everyone's like surprised. Even Super Alloy, he's just like, yo, that's a lot of monsters just popping in out of nowhere. And you see Atomic Samurai and the kind of jester looking girl, or it might be a dude, I think it's a girl, kind of realizing that they have actually been surrounded from all sides, and they've been surrounded from all angles. So then we see this kind of rag just drop in from the top, and it turns out this guy is actually called Jagan, who looks like the kind of Castlevania Reaper dude. And he has telekinetic powers, and the first thing he does is he pulls in some trains from, like, I don't know where he just grabs them from, and they're full of monsters, and these crash behind the heroes, and all these monsters fly in from behind them. And this is actually a part where Second Gal says something about Gyoro saying something like, he said he wouldn't use any dirty tricks. Now, at first I thought that this was weird, because like it made it sound like Second Gal was kind of like a double agent, like he was working for the monsters and now he's going to see his death because Gyoro wants to like tie up loose ends and stuff like that. But I think it was just Second Gal making mention of the fact that when he was talking to Gyoro in the Hero Association, when Gyoro kind of sent that kind of slave thing and he possessed someone or some shit like that, I think he made mention of him not using any dirty tactics, and that's what Second Gal was trying to kind of talk about. So then we see that Feather guy, he unleashes his Wolverine claws and everything like that, and everyone's basically getting ready to fight. But this is really my favorite part of the chapter, where we see Jagan in his like true form for the first time, and you see Tatsumaki's just in front of him, and you knew straight away that it was going to be Tatsumaki versus Jagan. There was nothing else for it. It was going to be both of them. So the monsters are all laughing at like how many heroes there are and the size of their army essentially. And this is where Jagan, and like I said, so the first character I want to talk about is Jagan. His design is cool. His arms are like coated in eyes, all monsterized, by the way. So that's where he gets his power from. All these kind of like lesser monsters and stuff, their eyes have been implanted into him, and he's been able to use their power to enhance his own, which is telekinetic and very Esperish. So he brings down a building on all the heroes there, and if it wasn't really for Tatsumaki, a lot of them probably would have died. But also because of Tatsumaki, the kind of she still left room for a lot of them to die, because she just put up a barrier like on top of everyone, and she didn't really protect them. Like all the debris was flying all over the place, and the heroes really had to dodge. I mean, like the S-Class and Amaya Mask were fine because they could just tank the shots. I mean, like we see everybody else kind of screaming. We see Second Gal like, what the hell are you doing, Tatsumaki? And she's like, well, my job is just to exterminate monsters. Why do I have to protect you guys as well? So we see Puri personally. I really like this panel where he saves like Gyaspa and all these guys. Kind of a very, very like Bang style panel where he's just like diverting all the rocks. Very awesome panel. I was like, this is pretty cool. But then you see Super Alloy just completely tanking, like a huge piece of debris just falls on him, and he literally just stands, takes it, and it just breaks around him, and he just looks so nonchalant about it. He's just like, oh yeah, whatever, that was cool. And I'm just like, bruh. So like, and obviously what's her name, Captain Mizuki, she's just like, yo, this is pretty sick. So Tatsumaki's just there being like the bitch she is, essentially. And we see a Mai Mask holding up a piece of debris, so we can see how strong this guy is as well. And like, we always knew that Mai Mask was like crazy strong, but just we don't know how strong. But he does kind of call out the other heroes here. He's like, you're here to support, but you're kind of freezing, so pick up your nuts and actually do something. So it's from this point here that really Tatsumaki decides that she's going to be the one to take out Jagan, because he says that he wants to gouge out Fubuki's eyes and Tatsumaki's eyes and make them a part of him as well, so that he can use their abilities to enhance his own. So then, like, in a tornado of terror, which is why, like, where she gets her name from, she goes ahead and she fights Jagan. So while that's being off screened, we see the first character, really, this Jester lady. I'm not too sure what her name is. Actually, her name is Twin Tails, and she goes in and she's like taking out all these monsters just by juggling things, and she's like throwing them at them, like these pinballs and these friggin' like bowling pins, actually, and knives and stuff like that. She's just wrecking quite a lot of monsters, and it's fun to know that the dice on her ponytails are kind of all emblazoned with the number 4, which is she in Japanese, and she is kind of the wordplay on death, shine, and stuff like that. So yeah, that was pretty cool. I liked her proactiveness and how she was just wrecking people. And then we see this other sniper monster with a gun, which is also a monster. I'm not sure if it's a monster in and of itself or whether it's an extension of the actual sniper himself. But he snipes towards, like, I'm not sure who he's actually aiming at. I think he's aiming at the Twin Tails girl. And he gets counter-sniped by the sniper we saw earlier in the chapter of the heroes, straight through the scope of his sniper and through his head. And I was like, yo, that was crazy. And obviously all the monsters are like, oh, you're a sniper, so you're left defenseless, and they all go after him. And he just puts in some major work. He just snipes them at like close range, no scoping them and shit like that. I was like, if this was a guy on Fortnite, people would be raging. They'd be like, aimbot, aimbot, aimbot. So but yeah, it was really awesome to see. And he's just there, like, he's quite athletic as well, which is good to see, because you always see that sniper who, like, without his gun is nothing. So he's really athletic. He's popping all these guys, and then at one point he tries to reload and he runs behind Puri Puri prison, and he's just like, oh shit, my gun's jammed. So that was cool to see. And then he almost gets wrecked. But then we see the power of another hero whose name is I think it's Green. Yeah, so Green. So I said the power of this guy would remind me of, like, it would be cool if his power was somewhat similar to Ryokugyu in One Piece, so Green Bull in One Piece, because he has like a very he's essentially a tree. He's walking around with like plants and stuff fused to his nervous system, so he can control them, he can make it grow and stuff like that, and he's wrecking all these monsters with his plant-based abilities. Well, he's not really wrecking them, he's just holding them down while another guy wrecks them. So that was pretty cool. I liked his abilities. Then we got to see the A-class rank 29 Narcissus Stoic, and apparently he's like, his greatest rival is Sweet Mask, because of their like similar types of martial art, in the sense of it's elegant and beautiful, but it's devastating. And then you look at exactly what he does, and he's just like a freaking brawler. It looks very Muay Thai-ish, and he just decimates this one monster. He knees him in the stomach, and then he like picks up like some brick and stuff, or some debris, and he smashes the monster's head in and stuff like that. And then he catches his rose back in his mouth, and he's just like, oh yeah, that was so beautiful. And the Mai Mask is just like, I got no idea who this guy is, but he has a certain flair, and I think he'd do well in show business. So I thought that was pretty funny. But then the Mai Mask also sees the other hero, the Wolverine guy, and he notes his actually, I don't think he actually notes his fighting style. I think he was talking about Narcissus Stoic and his beautiful style of combat. But we then get to see that feather guy, and he's just hovering in midair, assassinating all these monsters, and it looks awesome. Like, he's just there with his Wolverine claws. He's got jagged ass boots as well, and he's just there kicking the shit out of all these monsters. It was really good. We're already at 10 minutes, and I'm not even halfway through the chapter. Well, I'm almost halfway through the chapter, so I need to pace this. But so another hero we see, and I can't remember if we were given the name, is this female ninja who's just going in throwing kunai and stuff, actually shuriken at all these monsters, and then she gets axed right through the head, and I thought, oh my god, we got our first casualty. But it turns out she used a replacement kind of technique, and it just turned out to be a log that was axed into, and she kills the monster. And actually her name is Shadow Ring, A class rank 32. And Flashy Flash here is like, yo, you know what, your technique is quite unique and I like it. Where did you learn your ninjutsu? Obviously he knows that this person didn't learn it from his village, and he's like, yeah, I know you didn't learn it from my village because we train no women there, but that doesn't mean they don't have any women. They just don't train the women in the ways of the ninja. But he's still impressed by Shadow Ring's technique. So I was like, this is pretty cool. We then see another hero, I think his name is Double Hole or something like that, an unfortunate name, but he seems to be like obsessed with like grabbing people by the nose and tipping them over and stuff like that, and he can actually fire like these freaking compressed like shots out of his nostrils. I'm not sure how he does it, but he does it, and it's pretty powerful. So I thought he was pretty impressive as well. So then we see another hero who his name is Jet Nice Guy Reborn. He's got like sunglasses, and he looks like a cyborg once again, but he's just there with like basically really explosive punches, almost like Genos, really, like he's got like rocket punches and stuff like that by the looks of things. But then we see one of the main guys who put in some big time work this chapter, which is Needle Star, and he's just got like a flail, so a ball and chain, but the ball's got spikes on it, and he's there like wrecking monsters left, right and center with the ball and chain, with the flail. And his mastery and his control over the flail is just incredible. He has little tugs, he can change the direction. It's almost like he's an ESP user with the flail. That's how expert he is in using it. And I'm not too sure whether you could say he does have some sort of telekinetic abilities, but it does look that way. I think it just might be that he's incredibly expert in his technique of using the flail. And he just decimates like so many different monsters and stuff like that. And he's like, you'll never reach a trajectory because I'm just really good at using it. And he continues to do that. And then we see Captain Mizuki, everyone's favorite girl in this chapter, definitely. And she tells Second Girl to blow a whistle for her to like kind of pump her up and start her performance. And she has a baton. And this was the weirdest part of the chapter, because it was just really unique to see her abilities, which is this baton kind of transforms into like different things. So the first thing it transforms into is like a Nyoibo power pole kind of thing. So it's like she's using it in like a pole vault event, and she just like basically pole vaults on monsters and she wrecks them like that. And then she instantly changes this baton thing that changed into a pole vault into a javelin. She pierces another monster with that, and then while that monster is still on there, she transforms it into it gains a handle on that kind of javelin, and she changes it into like a hammer throw, and she just wrecks like a whole ton of monsters like that. Eventually she gets caught by like these watermelon looking monsters, and they just hug her, and she catches them in between her thighs and in between her arm and her ribs, kind of like just headlocking it. And she was about to get rushed by like a whole bunch of monsters until Super Alloy gets there, and he just touches these monsters and they all just blow up and die. And he's there like super impressed by her abilities and her power and stuff like that. And he's like, you've got a good body. And she then squeezes the life out of the watermelon monsters, and all their juices and stuff are flowing all over. And so she seems to be really hyped just because Super Alloy is there, and because he's kind of like a mentor to her essentially over here. And then we see that kind of chubby superhero whose name is Food Battler Futoshi, and he doesn't actually do anything, he just dodges the monsters' attacks and stuff like that. Then we see this other guy with his like whose name is Super Bondage Shell. He just ties people up, hence his name, Super Bondage, and he's just there really tying them up and incapacitating them rather than actually killing them. And then we see the failure of the chapter, the biggest failure of the chapter, whose name is Gearsper. And he tries to use like his ESP to take out these monsters, and they do die, but it wasn't him at all. He's there like, oh my god, it worked. And it turns out it was just the A class rank 3 and 4 Okama Itachi and Bushi Drill, both of them who are, I think, apprentices to Atomic Samurai. So then we see this one guy called, I think his name is Poison, who saves Second Gal from being wrecked by one monster, and he's C-class rank 300, so he's not all that, but he can kill monsters by himself apparently, and he just lacerates the demon very shallow with a very shallow wound, but the poison of his weapon just completely kills the monster. And Second Gal then reveals that he does actually have a weapon in his eye. He can fire a beam, and it doesn't really do much. The monster was already dead by that point. So, like I said, everyone did really well. They put in some major work, and they just decimated all the monsters and stuff like that. But what I'd like to bring up here is that like Flashy Flash was impressed by that Shadow Ring, I think her name was. Super Alloy was impressed by Captain Mizuki. Who else was impressed? My Mask was impressed by Narcissus Stoic and stuff like that. So it'd be really nice if after all of this, the S-Class heroes decided, you know, maybe we should take apprentices, or maybe even My Mask, maybe we should take apprentices and train up some of the lesser ranks so that they could get better, so that we're not really the only force that, if something like this happens again, we're not the only people that the Hero Association can use to retaliate. Other heroes can be used as well, but we may still be the best, but at least there'll be some sort of in-between, because there really isn't an in-between. Once you get to a My Mask and above, they're just in a league of their own. So more monsters come, and this time I think it's Rhino Wrestler is his name. He comes, and this part was just awesome because all the lower class heroes gang up on him first. His Needle Star, I think his name is, and he gets hit and he gets knocked away. But what I liked was that he didn't just get destroyed. He did get hit and he gets knocked away, but he was still conscious and he was still fine. And then you see Captain Mizuki go in after him, and they do like a combo attack, which is really cool, a shot put attack. So then we see basically a combination of all these heroes attacking Rhino Wrestler, and he essentially just tanks them all, and he just wrecks them essentially. And all the while he's just ranking their attacks. He's like, you ain't got nothing on me. But then the part I really, really liked was he goes up against A-Class rank 2, which is Jagan, the kind of highest apprentice to Atomic Samurai, and he lost his arm like chapters ago. But he attacks Rhino Wrestler and manages to kind of stalemate with him. But it turns out that I think what we were told here is he could have actually bodied Rhino Wrestler. I do believe that Jagan could have bodied Rhino Wrestler, but he was too focused on trying to cut through Rhino Wrestler's horn because he realized how tough it was, so he kind of made it his own challenge to cut through the horn of Rhino Wrestler, which prevented him from actually killing Rhino Wrestler, and this is what kind of angered Atomic Samurai, because if you notice, when Jagan is fighting Rhino Wrestler, he's just literally striking Rhino Wrestler's horn. So at this point, you have Atomic Samurai to say, "Bruh, that's enough. You're tagging out." And Jagan is just like, "Just give me one more chance. I'll do it this time." And Atomic's just like, "You were just trying to cut his horn, weren't you?" So then we see Atomic Samurai, like he unsheathes like an inch of his blade, and that's it. He just turns around and he's like, "Yeah, I'm done. Let's keep on going." And I was like, bro, I knew at this point that he's going to be sick, because whenever you see someone like slightly unsheath their blade and then instantly they've not done anything and they're just walking away, you know they were too fast for anybody to see, and you know that the fight is already over. So he then asks Rhino Wrestler, like, what was my score? And you see a cut straight through Rhino Wrestler's horn, and you realize what's happened. And he just gets freaking sashimi'd, and he gets turned into like cubes and freaking a random assortment of shapes, and he grants Atomic Samurai with 100 points. And then you just see Atomic Samurai go off. He takes out his toothpick. He doesn't even use his sword. He takes out his toothpick and he just starts friggin' like deep frying these guys, and just pure sashimi all over the place. This guy is just wrecking people, and it was filthy to see Atomic Samurai. Just like I think the best part of this chapter for me was Atomic Samurai, just seeing him decimate these monsters. And obviously they're nowhere near his level, but he literally paints the background in their blood, which was just crazy. And you see him and he's just like, he terrifies the monsters, which is something that I appreciate. And then you see Flashy Flash impressing Shadow Ring, basically being so fast that Shadow Ring couldn't see anything that Flashy Flash did, and Flashy Flash then decimates a whole bunch of monsters himself. And then you see Super Alloy tanking some hits, showing Captain Mizuki what he's made of, and he literally runs through the monsters and does nothing, but they just explode around him because he's so dense or something that just making contact with him, they explode. And that Super Alloy is just so crazy. I don't know what to think of him. He's literally just running at the monsters and they're dying just because they're making contact with him. So we see Pig God eating one monster. We see Puri Puri Prisoner getting punched in the face and then absolutely destroying a monster. Like, he absolutely murders this monster. And basically we got to see, like, first we got to see the A class and lowers really putting in some work and the S class being impressed, but then we got to see the S class showing their worth and showing why they are in actual fact the S class heroes and not anything lower. So we then see the kind of Tatsumaki finishing her fight. She totally decimated Jagan. She kind of turned him into just a ball, and then she spun him up into a little mini tornado and essentially killed him. And that was it. That was basically the end of their fight. So then we see kind of one of Gyoro's flying kind of drones, and all the while Gyoro was watching what was happening. And Child Emperor kills this drone, but Gyoro just sat there in his base like, I've already seen everything that I wanted to see. The only thing I didn't get to see was King's powers. So he then says, I've got the gist of everything that I wanted to know about. And then we see, like, I'm not sure if it's all the executives, but definitely like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least like 5, 6 of the executives. And Black Sperm is one of them, and he's just there like, why did you round us all up? What did you get the gist of? And that's how the chapter ends. So I was really hyped by this chapter. It was really good. Like I said, it would be really awesome if the S-class heroes decided to take on some apprentices and to train up people, so that there was less of a gap between the strength of the S-class and the lower class heroes. But I'm also really excited by what Gyoro will do for the executives and what he's got planned for them. Has he seen enough so that he knows which executives to pick against which S-class hero? Because a lot of the S-class looked incredibly powerful this chapter, but we don't know how powerful the executives are. I mean, some of them will definitely be, possibly all of them will be dragon level, but we don't know how they'll fare against the S-class heroes. So let me know what you guys thought of this chapter. Let me know what you guys thought of this review. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you guys in a bit.